Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome to the 4-year anniversary show of Forte Catholic. I'm so excited to share it with you. Father Anthony and I had a great time. So if you're here, it means that you've enjoyed the show at some point. So to celebrate our 4th birthday party, please like and subscribe and hit that little bell. So that's the greatest gift you can give me. Take just a couple seconds. Leave a comment if you can, your favorite part of the show. All that stuff helps so much. So enjoy today's show. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is the man who we haven't even started, and he's already driven me crazy today. Once again, the past 2 weeks, all co-hosts are trying to do their best impersonation of Liv Harrison and just drive me crazy. Father Anthony, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Technical difficulties aside, yeah, I'm doing great.
Once again, anytime anyone in the Catholic Church says they're having technical difficulties, 100% of the time it's user error. And I just witnessed that for the last 20 minutes.
Yes, exactly. When I say technical difficulties, I'm trying to arrange my furniture and microphone and somehow, and I've done this before. I've recorded in this space. I'm at my brother's house. I've done this like at least 10 times before. And for some reason, I can't get it to work today. So this is what's happening.
Well, good. So we started the show off today differently than we have recently, but similarly to how we have done for most of our time doing the show.
Correct.
Yes. I was going to say it looked like I broke your brain, but also so did the lamp in front of you. So,
yes,
I mean,
yes.
It's not going to take much today.
Not today.
But today is a very special day. Do you know why, Father Anthony?
You just told me. It's very exciting. Today is the 4-year anniversary of Forte Catholic.
Today is. We are recording this on Monday. And wow. Today, Monday, October something, I looked it up earlier, October 5th is the 4-year anniversary of the Forte Catholic podcast launching on radio airwaves on Red Sea Catholic Radio and to listeners in the single to sometimes double digits on podcasts those first few months.
4 years is like 40 years in podcast time. Like people do not make it past 1 year, let alone like 6 months. And you've gotten 4 years. That's kind of a big deal.
It's crazy. 80% of podcasts don't make it to a year.
If it's not because of your success, it's definitely a tribute to your stubbornness. So either way, congratulations.
For sure. So like, I mean, we started off and like literally we had download numbers like equaling the amount of people that I have in my current household for a while.
Yeah.
And, now we're, closing in on, we hit 100,000 a while back. Like it's grown and it's good. It didn't start off great. We had some bumpy times. We had some good times. And so something else happened around 4 years ago, Father Anthony. It's been in the news recently.
You mean the election?
Yeah. So we started on October, and so a month later, we did a show on, we called it Hope on Election Night, and I recorded it live on television on Tuesday night. I think it was Tuesday night was election day. I think.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's what it is. It was Tuesday night because that's the night the show was live back then. It used to be a live radio show, crazy, at
that's
7
insane.
p.m. on Tuesday nights because that's when everyone listens to Catholic radio. So I recorded a show on hope on election night. No matter the outcome of what's going to happen, we need to find hope in Jesus and the church or something. Like I used to do like churchy topics back in the day. So here's what I would like to do. I like reminiscing, and I've been reminiscing for multiple reasons over the last couple of days. Including the 4-year anniversary of the show. So what I would like to do now is campaign for my reelection.
Okay, yeah. Okay, what's your pitch? What's your platform? What's happening?
I would like to just go, my platform is essentially just showing what I have done over the last 4 years and the great moments we've had and to address some of the slip-ups, just like a good politician, except this isn't going to look like a debate.
Okay.
Because boy, that was bad.
I can start yelling at you right now.
What's great is I'm actually the moderator of this debate, so I can mute you anytime I want, which is what the moderator should have done. So here's the thing: at the end of today, what I would like is for everybody listening to the podcast, watching on YouTube, listening on the radio, is at the end of this show, I just want you to quietly whisper wherever you are, whether you're in your car or whether you're at the gym or whether you're just at home or surrounded by a bunch of people on the subway. I just want you to whisper, 4 more years, 4 more years. That's all I want at the end of this. That's all I want. So
Okay.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back into the hot tub time machine and go back to year one. I know that you started listening to the show relatively early in the show's tenure,
But like 2 years ago, I think.
yeah. But I doubt you've listened to anything in year one.
No.
Right? Good, because it's not great. It's not great. Year one was not tremendous. It was this thing. It was like, I want to do something different, but it took a while to to actually do something different. Like I was it was this thing of like, I want to do Catholic radio and Catholic podcasting different than anybody else has. But like I was doing it in like minute ways to where like I listened back and like it wasn't really all that different. And then finally, like over time, it started growing. But there were some good things that happened in year one. On literally episode 2, we had someone as a guest by the name of Allison Sullivan.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Episode 2. So she has been involved with the show, as you guys know. She's been a co-host for the last 2 years, and she started way back in the day as as our second guest on episode 2.
Wow.
And it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild that I did something right there at the beginning.
Yes, that was a good call. She's definitely one of the better co-hosts.
Oh yeah, one of the.
But if you have
pick,
if you have to pick one co-host to be your vice president, who's it going to be though? That's what the people want to know.
Well, here's the thing. I picked you to be the vice president.
Nice.
Because I needed a vice president and a secretary. This is all for the board of Forte Catholic.
Yes.
And I didn't want to make the priest take notes at the meeting because that's the secretary's job. For many reasons. 1, that's a weird thing to ask a priest to do. 2, I don't trust you to do it. 3, even if you did it right, I wouldn't be able to read it legibly. So I gave it to Allison. But I've told you that I completely regret that decision because when it came to financial stuff, when we were starting Forte Catholic, I needed so much. I could have just driven 6 minutes to Allison's house and got it all taken care of. But instead, the bank mailed you stuff. You lost it.
It got lost in the mail. I didn't lose it.
I don't think you did it the first time.
I don't know what I did or didn't do. Yeah, this was a mistake on your part. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
For sure. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. So I did pick you as the vice president, but the question was, who would I pick? And it would definitely be Allison.
Okay.
One thing I didn't realize that was so early on, one of the greatest ideas that I have ever had in my entire life. We didn't do one this year because 2020, but
the
Ministry Madness bracket.
Yeah.
This was the first thing. Like literally no one in the world knew who I was. And I did the Ministry Madness bracket thing. And years later, people were like, oh, I enjoyed that. That was you. Like people knew Ministry Madness more than they knew me.
I think I encountered that bracket before I encountered you for sure.
100%. Yeah. Because I had never done anything worthwhile in my life up till then. And then I finally did something and people liked it. This was taking people from all over the ministry world and putting them in a bracket that was votable, where essentially who would win in a boxing match. And I like, it was one of those risks. We talked about taking risk earlier. I didn't take the risk at the beginning. But by about March of the first year, I was taking risks of saying, hey, I respect and enjoy all of these people. I'm not going to ask their permission, but I'm going to put them in this fictitious boxing match. And I could have been canceled before I was even cancelable, right?
Yes.
And people loved it. And I had a great time with it. And it was a lot of fun. At the beginning, we had a lot of the Catholic Answers guys. Like actually in the first year, we went through like all the main people on Catholic Answers.
Yeah.
The highlight of that is that Tim Staples, a man that I looked up to for many years, and I still look up to him. He called me bro. And at that moment, I knew this show was going to be something.
Nice.
We had my mom on the show.
Oh my gosh.
Which is good, but I also realized that it's been 3 years since I've had my mother on the show.
You have to have her back on. That'd be amazing.
I know. She's coming to stay at my house in a few weeks, and I'm just going to sit her here right next to me, and it's a good time. And then this is reminiscing not just for the show, but reminiscing for everyone.
Yeah.
Do you remember when there was eclipse and we all did the thing that our moms told us not to do and we stared at the sun for an hour?
Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah. Wow. Simpler times.
Simpler times. So that was year one. And again, I want to just point out we had 7 highlights from year one. Not many.
Yeah, it's 365 days, 7 highlights. I don't want to do the math on the percentages, but it's not great.
Yeah. So what's so funny is like there are people who would like find out about the show now and go back and start at episode 1.
Never do that.
I'm like, guys, I appreciate the downloads. I'd much rather get 208 downloads from a person than them just starting now. I love that. But at the same time, if you listen to those first 3, you're probably not going to listen to anything after that because it wasn't great. So
that's a good rule with most podcasts. Most podcasts have a rocky start.
I start at like, unless it's like a seasonal thing, like if it's like this show where it's just kind of random, I'll work backwards. That's actually fun. Like I'll go from like the current stuff and then work back to be like, oh, now that I know these people, it's actually kind of funny to go back and see where they came from. All right, year 2. We started off year 2. I think it was the first show of year 2. I had on the premier scholar, Dr. Edward Fazer, on the church's teaching on the death penalty. And we did a whole segment on the church's teaching on the death penalty and when it was okay and when it wasn't. And like 3 weeks later, Pope Francis came out and changed the church teaching on the death penalty, therefore making me and the premier death penalty scholar wrong on the show just weeks before.
Yeah, and he just clarified that in his recent encyclical too. So he's doubled down on the no death penalty. Thank you very much.
He did. So if you want to hear me be heretical now, even though it was 100% the church's teaching at the time, go listen to the death penalty episode.
I would say there's some nuance in the conversation that we're not getting into, but more or less, sure. Okay.
One thing, this is crazy. In year 2, I had an Academy Award winner, an Academy Award film director on the show. And this is crazy because like now a lot more people know about the show and it's grown and I'm really thankful for that. Yeah. I had some killer guests at the beginning.
Right? My goodness.
I also had a few guests in year 2 that weren't as good as an Academy Award winner. But people like this okay priest from Pittsburgh, Father Anthony Sharapa, this guy named Bearded Blevin, Sean McAfee, all of them made their first appearance in year 2, which is crazy to me that y'all have been along this journey this whole time. Wow. All 3 of those people ended up becoming co-hosts about a year later.
Right.
But y'all were all guests in year 2.
Yeah. Okay. So I have been listening for about 3 years then. That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I had an Olympic medalist on the show. Again, someone actually accomplished. Kurt Tomasevich is a Catholic guy who has multiple medals in the Winter Olympics. What do you have? Well, I have Father Anthony, and the A isn't even capitalized because you're next to an Academy Award winner and an multiple-time Olympic medalist.
I know, yeah. Mm-mm.
But I'm looking at year 2, and all I see in regards to me is that I was wrong about the death penalty. Right. And then I just brought a bunch of cool people together. But really, like, that was the moment. Because year 1, I didn't have a co-host. Year 2, producer Sam was starting to co-host, and that started growing. We started becoming a host and co-host show, right?
Yeah.
But that was the time that everyone started liking everyone else on the show more than they liked me.
Correct.
And that has stayed for the last 3 years.
As soon as you brought someone else on the show on a consistent basis, you're like, yeah, that's the person I like.
Producer Sam was the favorite. Then we got the co-host. And ever since we got the co-host, there have been multiple favorites all across the board. But I mean, like literally we got a 5-star review the other day that was like, hey, I really love this show. It's tremendous and it's great. And there are great insights from everyone except Taylor.
Hey, 5 stars is 5 stars, buddy.
Whatever, I'll take it. So the one thing that I did that was good, and this was one of those segments that like it became a good thing and then it died, and I think we need to bring it back. It was called Unpublished Worship Songs. Do you remember this?
It's not ringing a bell.
So essentially what I would do is as a musician and a worship leader and liturgical musician, whatever you're, whatever you would like to say, pick your pronoun there. Like I would take stories that would never in their life would have a hymn or a worship song written about them and I would write a worship song about it. Like
That's
Paul,
awesome. Yeah.
Paul preaching so boring that a guy fell asleep and died.
Yes.
Like things like that, and just take stories that a guy killing someone while he was on the toilet. Like we don't have any hymns about that, but I wanted to write them because unlike many other pastoral musicians, I believe in all the scriptures, not just picking out the pretty parts.
That's beautiful. That's inspiring. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you. So then we get into year 3, and we're getting to the point where we have co-hosts, like you people.
Yeah.
Started coming around. You and I, along with our good friend T with Tolkien, Caitlin Fachista, we tried to break the internet. It didn't work. The internet's still working.
Shame.
Right before the co-host, did you listen to do you remember the whole saga of me versus a baby elephant?
No.
We had an entire segment where me and like my pseudo producer at the time, he was kind of interim before I started doing all the producing,
right?
Because of him, but whatever. He thought that I could he thought that a baby elephant would beat me in a fight, and I thought that I would win. Baby elephants, way less than me. They're smaller than me. They're slower than me.
Right.
I would absolutely just annihilate a baby elephant, and I just want to put that to bed today. That's what I want to do on the 4-year anniversary. Is put that argument.
That's fair. Yeah, I would put money on you versus baby. I also would pay like a lot of money for tickets to see that happen.
So it's going to happen whenever COVID is over in 2023. I actually have the baby elephant lined up. I'm hoping that it's still a baby by the time, because if it becomes any older, I'll definitely lose.
No, right. You versus a full-grown elephant, that wouldn't even be entertaining. That would just be sad.
So, Father Anthony, you had one of the biggest moments in show history. It's still one of our most popular episodes. There was something that you wanted to do in year 3, and you wanted to blow up the moon.
This is the dumbest thing that's happened in my internet life. That it started off with a joke, which I thought was very funny. The idea that a Roman Catholic priest wants to blow up the moon is just a silly thing. I really leaned into it. And I think I shared it on the show, but if you haven't heard, I remember meeting with my pastor at my parish in real life, and he said he got a call from somebody who was concerned that I was radicalizing young people to blow up the moon. And he asked me, is there anything I have to worry about here? And I said, no, you don't have to worry at all. The moon, on the other hand, be watching out. But yeah, that really happened in my real life. Yeah.
What's funny is, and I don't want to make a sweeping generalization, but I'm going to.
Okay.
If anybody's not watching on YouTube, the way Father Anthony looks right now is what every domestic terrorist I've ever seen on the news looks like. So I could see why his pastor is worried.
That's fair. Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. It's the long hair and beard. Yeah.
Okay. And then I did one of my favorite things, and we started what I didn't realize until reminiscing today. I didn't realize we have a tradition, and there's a tradition that every Christmas season I play a prank on you. And I did not realize this was a tradition. It just kind of happened. The first year, I think we talked about this a couple of months ago, but you came on for the Christmas episode. So we recorded before Christmas.
Right.
And I asked you to share your Christmas homily, which you had not written and not given. And then I told everybody after you went on for 5-6 minutes that indeed we were before Christmas.
Yeah, you did that. And then the second one was that, are you going to count when you tried to make me hear your confession on the show?
That was year 4. That was a celebration of year 4. That was also in the Christmas season.
Oh, I still have nightmares about that. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I have a story about that. We'll get there. You're jumping ahead.
Okay.
The last thing that happened in year 3 was Liv Harrison came on as a guest and very quickly kicked Sean McAfee off the show and became co-host.
Yeah, she beat him up. Yeah, he ran away.
Versus him versus a baby elephant. The baby elephant won, but Sean lost. He got 3rd place, so he had.
Right. Yeah.
The baby elephant was not available for comment, so could not be a co-host.
Yeah.
All right. Year 4, literally the first episode of year 4, I think may explain a lot of what Forte Catholic is. We started off year 4 with me failing a 9th grade theology test. I went into the 9th grade. They were worried about their test. I'm like, I'm your campus minister. I'll come take it with you just to make you feel better. The teacher was fine with it. I got a 69 or a 67. I got a 67 on the thing, and I argued with the teacher like I did in school. It was a lot of fun. So there you go. Your trusted Forte Catholic podcast host can't pass a 9th grade theology test. Grad school dropout. Also, here's where it gets crazy. Because I was reminiscing for another reason. Allison Sullivan wanted me to find some pictures from last week's episode so that she could share them. She just shared them today. Like, and it just fully encapsulates our friendship. Like, it's just screenshots from us recording in here. Just hilarious. But I was trying to find other pictures of her and I. So I was going back, and like this year, year 4, feels like it's been 4 years.
It does, though.
So when I was looking back, I'm like, I can't believe that in this past year, our future president released a Christian gospel rap album.
Oh yeah,
that was this in the last 12 months. Kanye West released a Christian rap album and announced his candidacy for president, and that's who I'm voting for. So I mean, it's a big year for Kanye. It's a big year for Kanye.
He got a lot done.
We reviewed one of your homilies. You sent us a homily, and
that was fun.
John Blevins and I ripped it.
Definitely a personal favorite episode of mine.
Because most other episodes you aren't sweating enough. Like, I don't understand.
It's true. I know something about like John trying to defend me and you trying to tear me down. The dynamic was hilarious. I laughed the entire time. I loved it.
That's good. You mentioned earlier we were live at SLS, which not only was in the last 12 months, that was this calendar year. That happened on January 1st. And I went to, we had this thing for years. You've never heard my confession. You're a priest, and we've been friends for 3 years.
Yes.
And you still haven't ever heard my confession because you're like, oh, confession doesn't work over Zoom or the internet or Xbox Live or the phone.
So, I know. I'm a stickler like that. What can I say?
So I set it up, and we were recording live at Focus, and I started doing a real confession with an audience.
Yeah.
And it was great because I was using the confession as a real confession, but also as a prank on you. And I put you in a precarious situation. You either had to hear my confession in front of all of those people, or once again, refuse me confession.
And the thing is, like, what got me was when you started naming like real normal sins. I was like, oh no, is this already happening? What am I gonna do? I was horrified the entire time. But yes, at the end, I was like, we can't do this.
My favorite part of it was deciding whether you or your clerically speaking co-host, Father Harrison, who was sitting in the front row, which one of you was more nervous?
That's a great question. I have to ask him because I think it was me. Oh,
it was great. You refused my confession. And something else that had happened in year 4, because it happened 2 days ago, is I finally went to confession with you, Father Anthony. It finally happened.
It did?
Through text message. You don't recall this. It was 2 days ago. So I texted you, and I was like, hey, do you want to play video games? You're like, no, I'm about to hear confessions. I said, I'll text you my confession. I said, absolution through memes, please. That was my request. And I thought you were going to shut me down. And you said, okay, which just opened the floodgates. So I texted, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I shared a parental advisory GIF. I shared some other things about sins that I've committed. You said stop, but you had already opened the floodgates. So I continued. I shared a meme of a guy doing the sign of the cross. And I said, not doing this enough. I shared a GIF of Morgan Freeman saying, I am God, which is another sin that I commit to often. Yes. And I said, for these and all my sins, I'm heartily sorry. And you responded with a GIF defining the word penitent and Jesus showing his mercy to someone. So I think that was real. I feel like I went to confession with you finally at the end of year 4.
First of all, I'm just surprised that the Apple phone had various. When I typed in penance, there were a few GIFs that worked for that. So I was like, well, I mean, this must be divine providence. So we'll do this, and God knows what happened. I don't.
And then to wrap up, 2020, I mean, the world fell apart. I completely changed my life. I now work for Forte Catholic full time. We introduced things like freestyle preaching and chicken soup for the stroll. Like, we're having a good time. And like looking back at the last 4 years of the show and looking back at the last year, looking for these pictures for Allison, like it was one of those things that like I just found myself continually smiling, looking back at all these memories and like thinking of the baby elephant and I fighting and thinking of making you awkward in front of a lot of people at SLS. Like all those things bring me so much joy in a time where I haven't found a ton of joy here in 2020. So it's like we always talk about hope looking forward, right? Like hope is the evidence of things unseen, like things coming in the future. But like looking back gave me a lot of hope and gave me a lot of joy. Looking back and being like, look, these are some pretty great highlights of
Yeah.
the show that started literally as nothing and now is a thing that I do full time, which is wild.
But also that's actually a really good spiritual practice. When we go back and are reminded of the things we're thankful of, that does increase our hope because we're reminded, oh, God really is in control. He really does have my best interest at heart. That difficult times, while they may last a long time, they will not last forever. And that's actually a good thing to pray with and to be thankful for. So yeah.
We did it, guys. So primarily, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's listening now, anybody that has listened over the last 3 years, and to those who listened to the first year, I just want to give my sincere apologies for all the time that you've given. Father Anthony just absolved you
for your sins.
He'll text you your penance later. But also, like, I just want to thank, I mean, like, you and all the co-hosts and all the people who have been producers and the people that read radio and like anybody, like literally everybody that has made this possible, all the great guests we've had, and even the bad guests. I want to thank you too.
And you know who you are.
Actually, you don't, because I'm much nicer than I should be. But whatever. No, it's just been a great ride, and I love doing the show, and I love the community that's been built up around it. So I'm just really thankful today here on our 4-year anniversary. So speaking of guests, we haven't had one in a while, and we're bringing a returner back. Koji de Ramos is back to talk to us about being Catholic in the workplace today. So do not go anywhere. If you would like to celebrate Forte Catholic's 4th birthday with some merch, we've got all kinds of stuff. If you would like a Forte Catholic sticker, I'll just send one to you for free. Just shoot me an email at taylor@fortecatholic.com or a DM on social media at Taylor Schroll, wherever you are social media-ing. But also, if you would like a t-shirt or what else do we have? A hat. Any of that stuff, it's all available on fortecatholic.com/store. Go check it out and look as cool as you possibly can. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is still a strange Jesus impersonator that wouldn't be paid much to be in a play, Father Anthony Sciarappa. And we have a very rare occasion today, Father Anthony. We have a returning guest, which has only happened a few times, and even more rare, a returning guest within the same calendar year. Koji de Ramos is with us. Koji, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me again.
Please keep down the energy. I know that it's my fault. We're having to re-record this because I made a mistake and didn't record it. You came with so much energy the first time, and now you're like, what a dummy. This guy doesn't know how to run his show, so I'm not going to bring any energy at all. It's fair. It's fair. I'm not mad at you.
Are you sure? Because you were just yelling at me just now. No,
That's his normal speaking voice. This is
you and my wife would get along.
No, I figure I take it slower this time. Like, I was talking last time and like, oh no, I'm like, I feel like I'm losing energy. I should probably build up. So,
well, this just in: Koji de Ramos loses energy after 2 minutes of talking. Golly. Well, good. Well, it's been great having you. Have a good rest of your day. No, but you came on and you're in rare company of being on twice in the same year. And I went back and I was like, what did we talk about? Because obviously it was really impactful on me the last time we talked. So I was like, what did we talk about? We talked about essentially bringing the faith to the culture and culture to the faith. And that was essentially the mission of where you were working at the time. And then 2020 happened and a lot of us changed jobs, me included. So like, I get it. Right. And now you've moved across the country and life's very different. Right. And essentially you're now working with a group that is about transitioning out of ministry jobs and into like jobby jobs, and how you can essentially be like bring your Catholicism to the workplace. So that's the ministry one of the ministries you're working with now. But you're like the perfect person for it because you're like you're like the guinea pig, right? They're like, hey, let's bring you out of ministry and do a jobby job and see how this works. So we were like, let's talk about being Catholic in the workplace. And you're like, but I've been doing it for like 8 days. Can we talk about something different? And I was like, sure. So you've had a lot of mindset shifts this year as things have happened in regards to ministry and to work. So I just wanted to open it up there and see what you got for us.
Yeah. So I'm currently working with an organization called Mission to Launch. And Mission to Launch is a brand new organization, and it's a brand new company. What we do is we provide e-courses for Christian Catholics who want to one up their game in the workplace. It also helps a lot of people who are transitioning out of ministry, people who are missionaries like myself, or people who we actually have a couple former seminarians who are transitioning out of seminary back into civilian life, and same with the military. So it's like our founder, Elena, she encountered this problem as well when she was transitioning. She was a youth minister for years in Miami, and then she decided to transition into corporate America, and she realized that she didn't really have a lot of mentorship and guidance. There wasn't a lot of resources for people transitioning from ministry to the quote unquote real world. I mean, these missionary organizations, they're awesome, but their jobs aren't to transition their missionaries back into the real world. It's just to do that mission. So, I've been blessed to be a part of multiple organizations, and I was transitioned well enough, but even that falls short a little bit. So yeah, you're correct. I'm currently transitioning from missionary to just corporate America, and just receiving the courses that we have available so far. It's been really great, and yeah, it's been an amazing journey so far. And we just wanted to get the word out there because we know the need is great. It's really needed, and it's a very, very awesome thing we're doing. So just really excited.
I have a question, and maybe this is because I'm naive. But my first thought is that like transitioning out of ministry into a jobby job would be easy. It's like, oh, hey, there's actually an HR department, unlike the parish. Oh, when people are mean to me, at least it's not a priest, it's just some dude. Like, part of me thinks that. But what are like the difficulties going from ministry of various kinds into the workforce? What are people running into that's a problem?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just a different environment where when you're in a ministry, everyone is on the same page when it comes to your values and beliefs. And that's
they should be. They should be.
They should
Like,
be. Yeah.
I'm glad you've had good experiences. Good.
Yeah, and for a lot of these missionaries, like there tends to be a shock of like going back into the workforce, even if it's just like working at Starbucks or like a part-time gig. It's a culture shock in a way, because they've just been so seeped into this way of life, and then just kind of like unplugging that. For me, my experience so far has been trying to, like, I feel like a baby giraffe trying to learn how to walk again. Like, it's interesting, because it's a whole mindset shift, which is exactly what Taylor was mentioning earlier. I thought I was just going to be in ministry my whole life, because I found a lot of meaning, and there's a lot of people who are still in ministry, and that's awesome, but not a lot of people are called to it full time, not in the traditional sense, at least. And for me, that's my first mindset shift of, okay, I'm not directly working in ministry anymore, but that's all I know. So how do I transfer these skills that I know onto corporate America? So that's actually like one of the courses that we offer. And we also have amazing alt mentors. These guys are top tier CEOs, owners who are very devout Catholics, and they really want to help people who are transitioning, because we paint a picture of like, can you just picture a bunch of missionaries? I think every year there's at least 1,000 missionaries that do mission work in the United States. Let's just say for some reason, all 1,000 decide to like leave those mission organizations and go into the workplace. That's 1,000 people who are on fire for the Lord, and who are willing and are, who want to create disciples. And can you imagine if they have all the necessary skills they need to succeed in their workplace as well? So that's like the utopia that we're going for. So
yeah, and it's interesting because when we talked the other day, you brought up these mindset shifts, and I was like, oh, what have been some of the mindset shifts that I've had in regards to like work and ministry? And one of them I have had to learn twice the hard way. One of them was like this mindset when it came to working in ministry of like we can't fail. Like this is the most important thing that we can do is like getting people to heaven. Like we can't fail. So like overworking, I did it at multiple previous jobs where I was like, I'm going to continue to sacrifice like my personal health, my personal well-being. I'm going to sacrifice my family time. I'm going to sacrifice like how I am. Like essentially, like I'd be tired and grumpy or sick, and then I wouldn't be as good with my family. Like essentially that balance that we're all seeking all the time, that's always elusive. Like I would always go like, oh, I need to be a saint and completely sacrifice myself for the mission of the church. And in like with that being my mindset, I couldn't do it. So therefore I failed. Right. So like I was like, I need to continue sacrifice. Then I was sick and I was tired and I was grumpy and I was frustrated. And then I started being resentful. Like all these things compounded over days, weeks, months, years to where all of a sudden I stepped back and it took like this complete, like it took huge things. Like it took COVID happening and the world shutting down. It took way back in the day, me getting strep throat every other week for 3 months. Like it took, like, I'm not very smart. Like God has to be like, hey, Taylor, this is a big deal. Flashing lights, like big things need to happen for me to realize that like this mindset that I have, like the good thing of I should sacrifice for the kingdom of God and to help and to help people, but not to the extent where I literally can't do that anymore. Right. So like that was this thing where it's like, it sounded holy, but practically in my life, it wasn't working. And I've proven that over and over and over again to where it's like, I need to balance that with the mindset of like, I need to take care of myself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So that's been a big mindset shift for me this year with everything that's changed.
That's awesome. Yeah. And for me, I think like one of the biggest mindset shifts is, I had dreams before doing ministry. Like my biggest dream was to be like the Filipino Will Smith, and that's a story for another time. But
I know how that story begins.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It's a story about how your life got turned upside down. I'd like to take a minute to sit right here.
Saw that one a mile away.
I know. It's funny because I actually ended up living near West Philadelphia, but that's again different story.
I'm hoping you didn't go play basketball.
I did. I can't. I just can't. So.
And that's the big difference. The difference between Will Smith and the Filipino Will Smith.
Yeah. Well, the real Filipino Will Smith would know how to play basketball. But anyways, I mean, so going back, like with my mindset shift is in ministry, I thought that, in order to be holy, I had to be poor. I had to like really strip away all these like luxuries that I have and to really know the Lord. And I think, there's a season in my life that was true. And, I was making no money as a missionary for a few years. And like, I really learned how to be simple and it was awesome. But God he doesn't like it when we're comfortable. And I was becoming comfortable in that missionary mindset. And I think just like what you said with COVID, it really just woke me up and just really, it took me a long time to realize that, I'm not sure if I'm actually called to ministry full time. And there is a different life out there. And I just didn't know what that looked like in my head. And so, like, not only does this help people who are in ministry transitioning, but we know that this will help people who are already devout Catholics in the professional world right now. So people who are looking for like, who are asking themselves like, there's got to be more. Like I've been working at, this big company, not me, but there's these people who have been working in these big companies and they're restless. They're really restless. And, they do Bible studies and all that stuff and they're really involved. But like when it comes to their work, like there's something missing. And I think with Mission to Launch, with the courses and the mentorship and the peer community that we offer, I think, this would be of value for those who are already in the workforce, who are just looking for more. So yeah, and they need to do a mindset shift as well. Like I think this whole theme of Mission to Launch, if I could just boil it down, is we're really inviting Catholics to live a different life, a different shade of Catholicism in a way that's not talked about much. Because upon joining this organization, I was introduced to all these different people who are like really successful, but also very devout. And I just never thought like, oh, that's possible.
Right.
And God actually wants that for us, for people. So, yeah.
Anthony, you're muted.
I clicked it, but I missed the button.
It's so funny. Like, I always know when Father Anthony wants to chime in because his eyes get really small, and he's like, I
My
have to
thinking
think
face.
really hard in order to ask a simple question.
It's true. It's true. So a lot of times when you're doing either missionary work or you're forming disciples, the Lord's going to use your personality a lot. And so you can kind of get used to kind of being the guy or being the girl, and things kind of revolving around you. It's not something that happens like on purpose. It's just kind of you and your personality are a big part of what you're doing. And I can imagine switching to a different kind of job where that's not so important, where you're more expected to be a functionary and your personality doesn't actually as matter as much. I imagine that'd be a humbling or just difficult experience, just to remove yourself a little bit from the center and into a different kind of work mechanism. Is that something that people struggle with, or am I off?
I believe so. I mean, so for me, I have an interesting experience. I came from the workforce and then into ministry and then now going back. So it's like, and I experienced such a radical transformation during my time in ministry. I almost feel like a completely different person. But yeah, I do remember feeling just like a cog in the wheel. But I would say, and I might get some ridicule after saying this, but I think the same can happen in ministry as well. You know, like I don't think it's exclusive, because I have experienced that in ministry. So maybe they're more ready than they think.
Sure, yeah, good, yeah.
Anytime I've walked into an interview for a ministry in regards to personality, I'm like, you ain't never had an employee like me. Your employees do this.
That's another Will Smith character. So.
I know, it's why I did it. So I was like I was thinking about other ways we could end this segment. Like, you know, I hope one day you get hitched and you don't end up in a zombie apocalypse, you know, that sort of thing. But here's how I want to end. And there's a guy who we talked about a couple of things, mentorship and transitioning out of ministry jobs and different jobs. And I think, you know, there's a lot of people transitioning just any jobs this year, right? And one of my mentors was a youth ministry guy. He worked in ministry forever. Like both of us thought he's going to work in ministry forever. And then his thing was he just couldn't support his family anymore. So he became a State Farm agent. He is my State Farm agent. Love him to death. And he, I didn't have a mentor in ministry. So I sought one out. I was like, can I buy you lunch once a month just so that I could talk these things out and just grow as a person, grow as a man, grow as a minister, all these things. And so he was my first mentor. And like, that was so important for me as a young person to grow in all of those aspects. But also when I was transitioning out, like, so obviously he transitioned out and he's super successful now. But as I was transitioning out, when I was making the choice, am I going to stay at this job or am I going to go to a different job? He looked at me and he said, Taylor, choose where you want to die. And I took it as, I'm either going to die in this job or die in the next job I take. He's like, no, dummy, like spiritually die. Like, choose where you're going to die.
That sounds like a threat to me.
I know.
Taylor, choose where you're going to die.
And it was just so strange. But like, that was one of the things that like a mentor could say that nobody else can, right? Where it's like that was like a big time thing. So the mentorship's important. All of us growing in being better at any of our jobs is important. That mentorship's important, but also taking our Catholicism, who we are, into the workplace. So, Koji, I want to thank you for your time today, for sharing this with us. How can people get involved with what y'all have going on?
Yeah, so check us out at missiontolaunch.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at mission2launch. Check us out. We have tons of information and we have a lot of people on board, so we're really excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we will be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere.
If you'd like to stay connected with the show throughout the week, you can follow Forte Catholic on Twitter at Forte Catholic or at Taylor Stroll on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. We'd love to continue to get to know you guys because we're 4 years old now and we want to have more friends. That's what happens at 4.
Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and Father Anthony has a joke.
So I heard this joke from, so I hang out with my friends on my day off, and they have 3 little girls, two I baptized, and one I'm the godfather of. And this is from their joke book, and I thought it was hilarious. So Taylor, what is red and is bad for your teeth?
Books.
A brick. I think it's great. I want to share that with people. That just there you go. That's the only content I have for this show.
Well, what's funny is like everyone that's a parent is like, that's what we hear all day. So it's not that great for me. But for you, a single person,
hilarious.
You and all the people single right now are really enjoying this segment. Everybody that's married is like, what is happening? So we have just a few minutes here to discuss something that just happened so randomly this past weekend. Pope Francis decided to release an encyclical. Like, where did it? Like, there was no publicity, there was no press, there was no trailer. Like, where did this come from?
I mean, there's a little bit, but you had to be looking for it. You know, if you're following the Vatican news, you knew it was coming out on St. Francis.
Well, I don't, and I don't think anybody listening to the show does. So.
Right. If you listen to this show, you probably don't.
So you and I have both read the first chapter, and I don't know about you, but I'm a slow reader, and it took me way too long to read the first chapter. And my first takeaway on this encyclical, already too long. It's too long.
It is like 110 pages.
But that's not how papal encyclicals are broken down. They're broken down into paragraphs, and there's like 260 or something.
Yeah.
And it's just too much. It's too much. That's my
very
takeaway.
long. But you haven't even told the best part of it. The best part is just the name. Fratelli tutti.
Which is another joke from the kids' book.
No, it sounds like it, right? But it's like my little brothers in Christ or whatever. It's a quote from St. Francis.
Pope Francis wrote this encyclical that came out on the feast of St. Francis, which again, I feel like should have been a bigger deal beforehand.
And also, like, if I was Pope Francis was a Jesuit before he became Pope, I would feel like, can we get any good press? Like, we're the ones who formed you and raised you and got you to the priesthood and everything, and you keep talking about the Franciscans? I would be angry if I was a Jesuit. That's all.
Well, that would be fair because a lot of people are angry at the Jesuits all the time. So.
Yeah, you know what? It evens out, sure.
Which, I mean, ironically enough, is kind of what the encyclical's about. Whenever you disagree with someone, you should be kind to them and show brotherly love. I think this is everybody has their patron saints, like countries and cities. I think this is the patron encyclical of Philadelphia.
They should adopt it.
Because every time Father Anthony eats a Philly cheesesteak, he has to fratelli tutti.
I shouldn't find that as funny as I do.
But you're enjoying children's jokes recently.
What can I say? Simpler things.
So you and I have both read chapter 1. What's your biggest takeaway from chapter 1 so far?
Honestly, so the most of chapter 1 is Pope Francis talking about all the bad things in the world, and he uses a really graphic imagery about how clouds are gathered over the world. And the two things that struck me is like,
That's natural, Pope Francis. It happens.
It's dark clouds, menacing clouds, right? But one is writing style. He's really good at imagery. He talks about how like these mafias have been set up, and there's banquets instead of banquets of fraternity. There's like snacking on badness. He does a better job than what I'm explaining. So that's the one thing that struck me.
He talks really well. Also, badness.
Yeah, right. He does a better job. He's had more time to write this than I've had to read it. But basically, I guess the main themes in the first chapter, and I'm hoping it's going to get more positive as he gives us some solutions. But more and more people are individualized and atomized, so we're separated from community. And because of the hunger and thirst for profits above all things, that creates the inequality and division, in the world. So he's kind of pointing out and he goes through like social problems with social media. He goes through problems with like different ideologies and hatred springing up. And it's very easy. Like, is this whole encyclical about how bad Twitter is. Like, it feels like that sometimes, right? But like, really, you can apply what he's saying to just everything that's going on in the world, and it's a rough one. Our poor response to the COVID epidemic makes us realize that we need to not just do a better job, but change how we do things. So he's painted a pretty bleak picture, but I think a pretty accurate one. So hopefully in the rest of the encyclical, he gives us some good stuff to change. And but I thought it was challenging in a good way. But yeah, it's a long encyclical for sure.
So like other than the joke of that it's really long, like like Joy of the Gospel, his first encyclical that was partly written with Pope Benedict as well, who I love.
Yeah.
Like that has been a foundation for me of who I am in the world. Like literally, like the whole Joy of the Gospel thing is literally our goal here on this show.
Yeah.
It was just so formative for me and a big deal. And then Laudato Si came out, and like I just not as interested in environmental things. So it's the first encyclical, papal encyclical I've skipped, I think, in my lifetime. I think I've read all the other ones.
Oh wow.
Maybe I skipped some JP2 ones because I was like 7. But
yeah, that's fair.
I've gone back and and read some of the others, but it was interesting because I was reading it, and like for a lot of it, I felt like this is not for me at all. Not in the sense that it's like, people like, oh, this scripture doesn't apply to me. Like I was like, this is for people who are like running governments and like running the world, right? And I don't do that. I sit in this room all the time, like, but then as it kept going, like towards the end, similar to what you were saying, it's like, here's all the things that are wrong in the world. And it's kind of on like a macro level, not on like Taylor's micro level or just anybody reading its micro level. But as it got to the end, like essentially like the ray parts the clouds, to use your imagery and his imagery, right? Like there's this sun that's coming out and going through the rays. And there is hope. And like the last few paragraphs of chapter 1 are all about hope. So I'm like, we're going to keep talking about it over the next few weeks. But before we go, I wanted to share a couple of my best lines.
Okay.
My favorite lines.
Yes.
One, Pope Francis, I used him whenever we talked about aliens a few weeks ago. I used a quote that Pope Francis saying on a plane that somebody said, if there were aliens, would you baptize them? And he said yes, and that was controversial. And everybody was like, oh, it's just something that he said on a plane. It's not real. And then he goes, ahem, I'm writing an encyclical now. And he says, how wonderful would it be, even as we discover faraway planets, to rediscover the needs and brothers and sisters who orbit around us. Once again, talking about aliens on other planets, but also saying like the important thing of like, there are people like, I say this all the time, there's people and problems everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like not just aliens, but like literally other people.
Yeah.
It's like, we're missing the stuff that's happening right around us. And I like that a lot. I felt very affirmed by Pope Francis.
Good.
And also, he's going to baptize aliens one day, I promise.
That will be, if we find some aliens, then he'll baptize them. I think it's also okay that not every Catholic needs to read and super enjoy every encyclical. But I would just say, if you're not going to read it, then just be very cautious about whose opinion you take on the encyclical. Because it's really easy to like, these are big documents, especially recently. And so you might have people taking like these quotes out of context. Just be very hesitant to believe that sort of stuff if you choose not to read it. I think that's just a fair way to go about it. Yeah.
You are very fair.
But if you're going to listen to Taylor and I talk about it, believe everything we say completely.
100%. Except for this part. Because for right now, I have to do something that I haven't done ever on this show. I have to disagree with Pope Francis. Are you ready for this?
I am very intrigued by this.
Here's what
please disagree with the Holy Father, servant of the servants of God.
He's talking about digital media. Like you and I talking together right now.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this.
He says digital media can also expose people to the risk of addiction, isolation, and a gradual loss of contact with concrete reality, blocking the development of authentic interpersonal relationships. So, sure, we could go on that for forever. You know, we don't have a real relationship because it's only through media. But that's not the part I disagree with. This is the part I disagree with. They, as in these interactions through digital media, lack the physical gestures, facial expressions, moments of silence, body language, and even the smells, the trembling of hands, the blushes, and perspiration that speak to us and are a part of human communication. And here is where I vehemently disagree. Okay. The best part of digital communication is that I don't have to smell your smells and you don't have to experience my perspiration.
No,
I don't think that's a benefit, Mr. Francis, Mr. Holy Father, Pope Francis. That's the only place I disagree with you, and I just wanted to put that on the record. Father Anthony, we are done. Thank you for being here on the celebration of the 4-year anniversary. And we had to cap it off with me disagreeing with smells and perspiration being a good thing in Pope Francis's mind.
That's the only way we could end it.
I'm Taylor Schroll. That's Father Anthony. I'll be back next week. Say it.
Thanks so much for listening today. I really appreciate all the support that you and everyone else has shown throughout these past 4 years. If you are loving what Forte Catholic is doing, we could always use your support because we are a nonprofit and we do this as a service to you guys and as a service to the Lord. Maybe he likes what we're doing. But if you like it, you can always support us with a tax-deductible donation at fortecatholic.com/donate. Thanks so much. God bless, and I'll see you next week.